Hog yeah. Oh, what a beast. What a machine. Oh God. How about this little beauty then? The Aprilia Classic 50cc two-stroke with the ultra-reliable AM6 engine. Potentially one of the coolest 50cc bikes I've ever seen. I wasn't too familiar with these, but I did have an RS50 when I was 16, and it was probably the worst bike I've ever owned because of that. Although my one wasn't heavy duty, so we'll see how this goes. It's in reasonably good condition. It's quite a nice colour. Although it does need a clean up. I think these are about the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I like that, but unfortunately, it does seem to be missing the one off this side. Either way, it's a very cool wheel. Moving on to the chain and sprockets, which again, typically any 50cc geared motorcycle is going to look like that, especially if it's been sat like this has. So there is a little bit of work to do to it, but that's why I'm here. Chain and sprockets, this tiny little carburetor, which is funny enough about the same size as the one on the mini moto project that I done. That puts into perspective how powerful that mini moto was. It's still got the original 50cc barrel on top. Ducati rectifier on there, so that's a bit worrying. The front brake caliper is a bit seized, along with possibly the front master cylinder, but all easy stuff. The forks are in very good condition, which is nice. It's got these classy spoke wraps on the front. Very cool radiator cover there. Gear lever is a bit stiff, so we need to work something out with that. I have got the air filter box for it as well. I am missing this left-hand side panel. So again, we'll have to see if we can get a replacement for that. There we go. Oh yeah, it does also need a bit of electrical work here as well, as to be expected, but again, that's no problem. Look at this shock setup. A proper chopper type shock setup with the almost hardtail rear swinging arm, but going into this shock here. So yeah, proper frame design for a little 50cc. It has done 10,000 kilometers, hardly worn in. Oh, wrong way. A little bit of storage inside here as well. This funky exhaust system. So it certainly is a rare machine. I think when I checked, there's maybe one of these on the road in 2025. So hopefully we'll make it 2 by the end of this video. Yeah, let's order some parts and get fitting. Two split links as well. Right, so there's a few good signs of life. First of all, there's no play in the output shaft and it spins freely, so that feels nice. The clutch lever is reasonably free as well. And also, I have taken the spark plug out, but it turns over. Bonus. And it looks a pretty good colour actually, so it seemed to be running reasonably well before it wasn't. Front sprocket on, that was easy enough. Rear sprocket also needs replacing, but I need to lift the rear wheel off the ground obviously. Now I can't put my paddock stand on here because the exhaust is in the way and is lower than a swinging arm, so it hits on there. I don't know whether this is going to be genius or stupid and dangerous, but I've propped the frame up with a piece of wood here. I've strapped the rear down there, and now the front wheel has come off the ground. So I'm going to strap the front wheel down, hopefully lift the rear up by releasing this, and then I'll have the rear wheel off the ground. It is not the best, but it's all I can do. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, look at that. Awesome. Ow. Rear drum brake. The shoes seem to be reasonably well intact. Rear sprocket. Cool rear wheel. It's a shame we haven't got the cover for this side. They are available, but not easily from the UK. So maybe from abroad. I don't know whether to take this side off or leave it as it is. Sprocket back on, cleaned the wheel up, it's nice and tidy now. I'm going to leave the cover off because I only have the one, which is a bit of a shame because I do really like it, but I just think it'll look a bit silly with one, so I'm going to leave that off. Need to clean up the swinging arm in here because it's a bit dirty, so we'll just give that a quick clean down. I need to sort out the rear brake as well. So the lever is not returning very well at the minute. I'm not sure whether it is this pivot in here, whether the cable is seized or whether the rear shoes are seized on this pin. I suspect it's a bit of all three. It has occurred to me that I'm doing all this work and haven't actually checked if it runs yet, but here we are. It's a 22-year-old Italian bike. What can go wrong? So we've got the thread out, just about. That came out with there. Time to rebuild. New pistons, new seals, cleaned everything up. Let's go. Brake caliper back on. Now the master cylinder. The piston is getting stuck inside, so we're going to take it apart and see if we can fix that up. I imagine there's just crud between the piston seals and the housing, which is causing it to stick, so hopefully we can take it out, clean it up and reassemble. There's usually a circlip on here that holds the piston assembly into the housing, but on here it looks like it's done by the piston plunger and then held in with the lever, so it works. It's a bit like the brake calipers. There was no wiper seal on the calipers. You just got the main oil seal but no wiper seal, so it's, you know, it works, but it's just, I guess, a cheaper version of doing so. I might see if I can blow down this hole here to then push the piston out, because we could be waiting quite a while if not. There we go. Did hurt my finger, but it's out. So a quick update on where we are. Rear wheel back on. Hub brake back on. Working well. Just waiting for a new cable to turn up, because the old one was rather ruined. Front brake back on. Master cylinder rebuilt. Caliper rebuilt. That's working well. Decent lever on there too. Chain and sprockets fitted. We are now onto the foot peg, foot peg and gear shifter, which at some point I imagine has been down the road, judging by that. Although the foot peg doesn't look too bad, but yeah, in essence, they've then sort of bodged it together, so this is a really terrible bodge. Trying to straighten it up, I cracked the foot peg off the frame. This peg was bent down here, so when I heated it up and tried to bend it, it cracked in the frame there, which isn't a problem because I can weld that back up and weld it straight. The gear lever was sticking before, and the reason why is because whoever drilled this bolt on here thought it was acceptable to drill it at that angle, so the gear shift lever was essentially at that angle on the bolt, so it wasn't flat up against either that surface or that surface there. So yeah, really terrible bodge through there. Whoever done that, you can see how out of line the hole is from the angle of the bolt there. But yeah, either way, luckily I've got a PhD in bodging things, so it'll be fine, but I'll do a proper bodge as well. It will at least work. So I plan on elongating this hole down here to then move this up slightly to get this bolt level for then the shifter to go through. I'm then going to weld a plate onto here, a plate onto the back, sort of make some sort of shims or bushes up, so this shifter isn't then rubbing against the frame here, so it can have some sort of, yeah, a little bit easier to shift, or easy to shift as it should be. So as you tighten this up, it's not going to rub against the shift arm there and make it hard to get into gear. So yeah, that's the next step of the day. Welding, 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 welding. apart from that, it is slowly getting there. Right, I know it's going to be a bit hard to see, but that bit of movement we've got in there now is enough to straighten that bolt up, weld that up, and then get onto welding bits onto this to make it stable. Cool. There we go. Thank God for grinders, but that looks all right, and it will be strong. Decide what to do paint-wise afterwards, but there's that, and there is the washer welded onto that. I want to put a plate or a washer on the back here where that hole is, which is a bit hard to see. Then the bolt has got something to nip up against rather than just the frame itself. That's going to be a little bit more awkward to get into because there's not a lot of space with the exhaust in there. But there we go. At the end of the day, we have to remember what we're working with here. And it is not a brand new Ducati. So, stuff like this is a major improvement in my opinion. Let's go. This is what we're doing then. I've actually got an M8 nut. So in the hole in the back of the frame there, which was a bit fucked up from whoever drilled this out on the piss, I have enlarged it slightly so the M8 nut fits in there nicely. Inside here is the original thread tube, which goes more or less halfway across, maybe 3/4 of the way across. So the nut that I've put in here roughly butts up to where this thread stops inside here as well. So that should create a solid mounting point. It also gives me a nut for the foot peg bolt to go into without needing another nut on the end possibly. Doesn't really matter if there is because there's one on there anyway. So unless we do the same to that. That one's already pretty strong to be fair. It's just this one I was worried about because it's near the engine and all that power might bend the frame if not. You see how much straighter that bolt is there. Awesome. Right, that worked out pretty well. I like the idea of that. So much so I did do it to this one as well. Obviously ignore the welds, got to tidy them up yet, but yeah, you get the idea. Just got to cut the shifter down now to fit in this gap and make these ends nice and flat. Whew, how about that? Drilled out the centre of this and cut it down. Made a bush to go in the middle of it. You can now change gear freely. A lot of slack there, but loose. Yeah, pretty happy with that. That has taken quite a while, but it's done now. Threaded. Just got to work out some paint or something here. And then space this part out here and straighten that lever up. Pretty happy. Good day's work, that. One clean carburettor. Let's see if we remember how to put it together. That almost rhymed. These have got an automatic choke system on them, so as you apply the choke and then pull the throttle on, the choke then disengages itself, so that's what the rest of this gubbins is. I could go back and watch the footage of how I took it apart, or I could Google it, but where's the fun in that? I like working stuff like this out, and then you truly understand how it works. Awesome Merino, that's back on. choke, throttle, choke off. Next up, before I put that back on there, that back on there, I'm going to clean these wires up. A little bit of wire-reno. I think whilst I'm here, I'll also sort out this mess here. Oh, cool, focus. There. In here, battery on, and then we can hopefully turn it over. Cool. Rightio, so we've cleaned up the wiring here. Broke that wiring because it was corroded and stuff, but that's just for the, look at that, horrible. That's just for the rear light assembly, so that's not to worry. Cleaned up that, but that's just for the indicators. Most importantly, cleaned up the starter solenoid switchy thing. This is also the solenoid, but what else? Oh yeah, carburetor back on. Turned it over a few times. I've checked that it's putting out oil here as well, which it is. And we're nearly ready for a start. So I've got the jump pack hooked up. I've got my auxiliary fuel line hooked up. So we can put the choke on. The exhaust is off at the minute, so it's probably going to be incredibly loud. I could put it back on, but I can't be bothered. I'll just move this. I've also stuck a fair bit of oil down the bore as well, just to give it a bit of extra help. But there we go. Oh yeah, cleaned up all of these as well, and we've got actually a very good spark now. Very good spark. It's probably actually better spark than that. I'm going to turn the petrol on now and see if the carb leaks, which it shouldn't. Then we can go for a start up. And then if it does start, then there's a few other things I'd like to do. I'm half debating taking the engine out of the frame to clean the engine properly, and also to make painting that a lot easier too. The trouble is, once you get started on a project like this, you can't help but clean it up. I'd really like to get in there and clean all that bit up properly as well, but it makes it awkward with the engine there. So maybe. I thought I'd get it running first before I take the engine out, just in case it doesn't run. I'm fairly sure it will, but this is the test. This is the ultimate test to see if it runs before we then decide what to do with it. Let's go. Fuel on, running down into the carburetor. Will it leak? Looks to be good. Oh yeah, better put the spark plug back in the hole, I suppose, and go and shut that dog up. Oh yeah, spark plug. I forgot. Again. Cap on. I think that's about it. Moment of truth. Moment of truth. It's close. Bit more idle maybe. Come on! Hey! Sounds nice too, sounds sweet, the engine. How about that? Choke on. Oh, okay. Well, there we go though. That was good. It starts. Awesome.